Good morning. This is the I Really Mean It Show podcast with your host, RGB, as we fade out our intro here. I'm also on Facebook Live for those that are listening on the podcast. I'm on Facebook Live, as I've been doing for the last several weeks here. That's been great. Thank you so much for those who have shared the Facebook Live, who've been able to come on as guests and kind of speak. And with no delay, we're going to go ahead and get this thing started. Today is Saturday, November the 18th. It's actually my mother's birthday. So we're going to be celebrating her later today. So definitely a great occasion, and happy birthday to her. Looking forward to that. But today's topic is relationships and business. And I want to talk about it from a couple different angles. One being the relationship between yourself and whatever employees or vendors that you have, and how critical that is to your success. Then another critical point is the relationship between you and your customer or your client, however you refer to them, is extremely critical. And then lastly, but certainly not least, is the relationship between yourself personally with your family. Whether that's with your spouse, whether that's with some other significant other, your children, the rest of your family or extended family. So I want to talk about today's subject from those three angles, and we're going to jump right in. Sorry that I missed y'all on yesterday. Yesterday was extremely busy. I normally try to do the podcast and come to y'all on Fridays. But you know what I'm finding out about Friday is on Fridays, I typically keep, not to say a lean schedule, but I tend to make myself fairly available. And a lot of people in leadership and things like that tend to try to keep their Fridays fairly open, because you never know what's going to jump off. And quite frankly, you never know if you're going to try to go ahead and get your weekend started, right? Because you've empowered your team to be able to handle a lot of the day-to-day. But I found myself extremely busy. Matter of fact, yesterday was my busiest day, man. And so I found myself missing my time that I normally want to do the podcast. So I'm coming to you today on a Saturday morning. So thank you again. If you want to be able to join the show, all you got to do is very simple, is comment. If you're here on Facebook Live and you want to join me in this particular topic, relationships and business, all you got to do is comment with the hashtag I want to join. I'll invite you on. They'll split the screen. You'll be seen. And we can have a dialogue discussion on this. What up, Justice Spencer, my bro, Orange Mound vet, joining us. Good morning to you, brother. Love to have you join on and jump in this discussion, man, because I know you've got great insight on this particular topic, relationships and business. So again, just to lay the rundown, relationships and business encompasses three things: the relationship between yourself and your employees, the relationship between yourself and your customer or client, and then the relationship between yourself and your family. All right. And so we want to jump on. You can subscribe and listen to the I Really Mean It Show podcast whenever you want, 24 hours a day. On iTunes, Google Play, SoundCloud, and YouTube. Just search I Really Mean It with RGB. Go in and subscribe. You'll get all the content that you can handle, and you'll be able to listen and get notifications for new shows as they arise. So anyway, let's go ahead and jump in. So relationships. So let's start with the relationship between yourself and your employees. So oftentimes, and you see this in Memphis, and I've seen it in my travels where I've lived other places or I've visited other places and done business. The relationship between yourself and your employee or your vendors is critical. Now, some of y'all may be saying, well, all right, RGB, so I don't have any employees. My business hasn't scaled to that level, or that's not my goal. I'm not even planning to scale it, to that level. And that's fine. But there's still a relationship, even if you're with yourself. You're your first employee. So even when you start your business, the first person you hire is yourself. And so even the relationship within yourself is uber critical. Matter of fact, probably the most critical of anything that we're going to talk about today, man. So it is very interesting as people start their business or they've been in business, and what they look at the relationship with themselves or with their employees, and they tend to kind of discount it. They tend to some people have a leadership style that's a little bit more taskmaster management related versus leadership. And just to help you out on some things that I've learned and that I continue to employ is employees are not just a mean to end, and they're not just simply human capital or human overhead. Your relationship with them is very critical to your business, because these are the people that you're empowering to then help take your business to the next level. Even if that person's yourself, you're still empowering yourself to then go and take care of whatever task that it takes to ensure that your business operates at an optimal level. So whether that's day one when you're first beginning and you're having to put the business structure in place and the business plan in place, your strategic initiatives in place, your strategic financial plan in place. Those are things that you got to begin cultivating that relationship even with yourself. How much time you're going to dedicate to yourself, how much time you're going to spend in continuous education, which is critical for yourself and or your employees. How you hire and onboard is critical. So what type of people do you hire into your organization? How do you onboard them, particularly in that critical first 90-day period of your business, where you're onboarding people into your company, and you have to make sure that they have the tools and the interaction to your culture. And again, this isn't about anything corporate. I'm talking about if you're starting your business and it's day one and you're the first employee, and then you hire, use me for example, you hire Ron, right? Okay, so whatever your internal or your culture is for your organization, you've got to be able to onboard Ron into that, right? And that's critical, and that's a test of your leadership, because your idea is that you're bringing Ron into your organization, and Ron's going to be a resource for you for some period of time to come, and have an opportunity not just to expand your business, but then you become a resource for Ron to help him expand and reach whatever goals he has personally and professionally. That's, again, a test of your leadership in business. So I'm not talking about glorified hobbies where you're just out collecting rocks and all that kind of stuff like some people are doing. That's a hobby, right? You could do that. You could stop doing it. You could pick it up, whatever. Your business doesn't work like that. Your business is constant, flowing. It's a living, just like you are. It's a living entity that you've created. So the relationship between yourself and then between yourself and your employees is uber critical. Hey, good morning, Yasmin. If you'd like to join in on this discussion, or anybody that's watching on Facebook Live, for those that are listening on the podcast, you can join Facebook Live on my page, Ron G. Brooks, on Facebook, and you just comment with the hashtag I want to join, and I'll invite you on to join, and you can join into this discussion. But as we talk about relationships in business, it's critical as we round out 2017 and we go into 2018. It is critical that that relationship with yourself, relationship with your employee, is something that you really spend time cultivating, because it is the beginning of, no matter what stage of business that you're in, businesses that tend to fail, you get into the financial piece and you get into this other stuff as to why people tell you that businesses fail. But businesses tend to fail from its core by not having a good, solid foundation. It's just like building a house on sand, and you hear that all the time. So if you build your business on sand, the moment that the hurricane comes in, or even just a strong enough storm, your foundation gets wiped out, and then it's really difficult, if next to impossible, to rebuild. So you've got to build that on a strong foundation. So as the business owner, that starts with yourself. Elliot, what's going on, brother, man? Good morning to you. If you want to join on this conversation, man, again, hashtag I want to join, comment down there. I'll invite you on if you want to join. It's certainly up to all of y'all. And then again, for those that are listening on the recorded podcast, but again, it is uber critical to this. And when I consult with business owners, people that are starting up businesses, I had a conversation just last week with a business owner of 17 years who's struggling with this. He's struggling with his relationship with his employees, and it also starts with himself. And his mindset was not to kind of build any kind of integral relationship with them. He had a very one directional, more taskmaster approach with his employees, and so he found that his employees weren't really loyal. His employees would leave for small increases in monetary gain through salary and benefit to go to a competitor, and he was wanting to reach out to me to help him figure out what are some specific strategic things he can do so that he's not losing talent. What you find out here with this is that unemployment rates are fairly low. I think even here in Memphis, we're somewhere close to 4%. I don't know the exact numbers, so don't quote me. But even just in the United States, unemployment is starting to be low. There's obviously factors to that. And of course, we know that by race and demographic, that number is different between male and female and, black, white, Indian, and going on down, Mexican, things like that. But unemployment rates have dropped, and some people have dropped out of the workforce altogether. So the competition now for talent is starting to increase, and it's going to be a big increase for 2018. It's not going to be as simple as just giving somebody extra money and things like that. You've got to have an experience. People are not just your customer, which I'll get to in a second, but your employees are looking for an experience too. And so are you. You're looking for experience in your business. Again, that's the difference between your business and your hobby. Is, what is your experience with it? What are your strategic goals? But then also, what is your experience with it? So I'm encouraging everybody that's listening, that's maybe watching here on Facebook Live, is don't discount the relationship between yourself and then your employees. As your business grows. So let's just say you've got a growing business. You've kind of gone from the stage of introduction. So you're out of your first, second year. You're maybe heading into your third year. You've hired 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 10 people into your business. So now you've got a team and you've got them working on specific tasks that roll up to your organizational strategic goals. It's critical, even as you're getting to that point, that, what do you do again to bring them on? So how do you identify talent? How do you go through a hiring process where you're able to vet out a person's background and their experience so that they can be a right fit into your culture? Some people can have a lot of talent, they can have degrees and things like that, but if they're not a fit into your culture, man, I'm telling you, you're going to have a problem. And I've made that mistake before. Okay, so you got to properly vet that out. Then you got to bring them on. You got to onboard them into your culture, and then you got to provide some kind of way that they can progress through your organization. Most people don't want to come and just be on one end of your assembly line their entire career. They want to be able to expand. They have dreams and hopes and aspirations as well. And you've got to be, as the leader of your organization or your company or whatever it is, you've got to be prepared for your various personalities and how do you coach and develop them along the way. Oftentimes I give sports analogies, and, when I play basketball, it's the same way. Each player on your team responds to things differently. Man, I'll tell y'all, when I play basketball, listen, they call me Ronnie B. I come out there and I was the point guard, and I can remember coach, in practice, he brings the starting group out, so I'm the point guard, hands me the ball, we're running some new offense, right? Or we're giving a tweak to an offense. And man, I remember coach, let's just say my four-man, for those that aren't into basketball, I'm a power forward. Let's just say he's off in the wrong spot, right? So coach stops it. He's cussing, ranting, and raving. And so what does he do? Does he go to him, and say, where the hell are you supposed to be? Nah, he comes to me as the leader, as the point guard. He comes to me and says, Ronnie B, where he's supposed to be? Now, I'm a teenager and I'm listening to this white guy kept talk to me crazy, right? And, I'm from the mountain. So, it's only so much of that we go play. So, I'm kind of hot and I'm looking at him like, where the hell he's supposed to be? Hell, ask him. He's standing right here. What you asking me for? He's like, no. He kicks me out of practice. I said, yeah, hell, if you go be the leader out here, you got to know where your people are going to be. And there's 5 of us out there, including myself. You got 2 men, that's a shooting guard, 3 men, that's your small forward, your 4 man, your power forward, and your 5 man, your center. And when we're running the offense, it's the point guard, the leader's responsibility to know where everybody's supposed to be. And if they're not there, you need to get them there. That's your responsibility. Run the offense, get open, get us into something, and let's get a good shot. That's your responsibility, and on a simplified term, as a point guard in basketball. So you have that same responsibility in your business, is what I'm comparing to. Memphis Marcus, what's going on, boy? I hadn't talked to you in a while, man. Good morning to you. Thank you for joining. And that's my guy, Marcus, with Media MVP. You got Elliot, the man sales, with Maine t-shirts. That's all over. Make sure that you pick those up. My guy Justin Spencer, as I mentioned earlier, he's on. And Yasmin with the Frugal Genie and the Passion Queen. Make sure that you're checking that out. And look at these people. They're on my Facebook. Make sure you friend them and make sure you patronize their businesses and be supportive, like their pages and all that kind of thing. Let's be supportive of the business. Again, part of the relationship, right? You got to build the relationships. So I'm going to look to kind of transition from the relationship between ownership and employees, or ownership and themselves. The second phase is ownership and customers, right? And this one seems obvious, but a lot of people miss this nowadays. Part of the reason they miss this is because we have fallen into, so for the last 8 years or so, social media has kind of been a major play as technology has advanced. As y'all can see, I'm sitting here, I'm on Facebook Live. I've got people watching, they're inboxing now. So I'm here on Facebook, and then I'm recording the podcast for iTunes, Google Play, and SoundCloud, and all that other stuff. One of the things that's kind of happened, that's an interesting phenomenon when you look at social media, is we've become very lustful for attention. And from that lust of attention, we've put a heavy value on likes and follows and comments and things like that. Not everybody, but many of us have. Many of us have fallen into that lustful lull, is what I call it, of developing virtual networks. And so we place value on getting to 500 likes, getting to 1,000 likes, pulling up a post and having 40 comments and, 10 shares and all this kind of stuff. And, mainly because we're lustful for the attention. We're lustful to, for those of us in business, to bring awareness to our business. And so I'm not condemning that at all, aside from the more superficial materialistic piece of it. But social media provides us such a good avenue to be able to reach our customer and provide more of a organic connectivity to it. What I want to make sure that we understand today here on the I Really Mean It Show podcast, and also on Facebook Live, is that we don't forget the power of human interaction and actually building a relationship with people. Even if it starts online, build the relationship with people face to face and actually through human interaction. It's so important, because what happens is when you fall into that lull of just likes and comments and you become distant, and I've done this in my business, so I'm sharing things with y'all that I've made mistakes on. And I've even shared with Yasmin in the past that one of the mistakes that I had to see myself through was falling into that love of the convenience and the efficiency that social media can have. Because like I mentioned, 10,000 followers, trying to meet and build a relationship with 10,000 people can take a long time. Is that necessary? That's, for another question, another topic. But, it's more efficient to build 5,000 Facebook friends than to try to develop some relationship and then market to, and then ultimately get a ROI, a return from, an investment in face-to-face relationships, because there's only so many people you can meet and have interaction with on a day-to-day or month-to-month or year-to-year basis. So what happens is because we have this lust for the virtual network, a lot of us, our businesses never really move. And y'all see this. Y'all will see someone who might be in business for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years, and you've had the chance to be able to see this throughout your connection with them on Facebook or Instagram or whatever, but you never see their business really expand or really go anywhere. The same way they were in 2014 is the same way they were in 2015, the same way they were in 2016, 2017. The only thing they might have done is change their logo up. They might have a few more friends, a few more likes, a few more shares. But when you actually look at the scope and value of the business, no matter what the goals are, the goals may be not so much from a business perspective. They may be more entrepreneurship, and they're looking at it just from the awareness piece. But the awareness never, even if that's a goal, you see that their awareness doesn't even expand, right? Much less if they're focused on money and profits and things like that. Some of the superficial things that business owners sometimes get into. But it is an interesting dynamic that happens with that. And what I've learned and what I've shared with you and what I share from a consulting standpoint with Brooks Brothers Consulting is you still have to have the interaction. So even if you're interacting with people online, you still have to have some kind of follow-up. There still has to be some kind of marketing promotional plan that you're building the relationship. And social media becomes very saturated. A lot of people are on it. A lot of people are running their business on it. So your message gets drowned out. It's kind of like here in Memphis, for those of y'all that are listening on the podcast. And you probably have this in your city where you've got major streets. Take a Germantown Parkway that's in the kind of East Memphis, Cordova area here of Memphis, Tennessee, of the suburb. So if you drive down Germantown Parkway, you see a lot of signage, a lot of advertising, a lot of businesses right up against the street. It's not real walkable or things like that. It's designed, the infrastructure of it's designed for car travel, for vehicle travel. And so what happens is Germantown Parkway, Winchester, Poplar Avenue and stretches, they have a lot of advertising signage up and down. So your visibility is always seeing somebody's sign and somebody's advertising, which psychologically, it gets saturated. And social media is kind of like that too. You going through your timeline, it's just like Germantown Parkway. There's advertisements for this. Someone's posting about this. Some people post about the same old subjects. Everything's about, relationships and marriage, and they want a husband, they want a wife. Don't do this, do that, post this meme, share this. And so there's all this advertising as you're going down your timeline, because it's efficient. It's mostly free because you're already paying for the service to have internet on your phone and all that kind of stuff, the data. And so it's saturated, particularly Facebook and things like that. I don't see y'all on LinkedIn, so that's where I can get some of my stuff in, because y'all not out there clouding up LinkedIn and stuff. Y'all don't want y'all boss to see y'all out there. But on Facebook and things like that, and even to some degree Instagram, it's saturated. So then how are you able to get your message out with all that saturation? Everybody's doing different things. For instance, Elliot's here watching with the main shirts. A lot of folks selling T-shirts, right? So how does he differentiate himself? Well, he builds relationships with people. He follows up, and I've seen him do this in his business, right? He's not just relying on likes and shares and follows and things like that, but he's connecting with people. What does the term Maine stand for? It's a Memphis slang term that we've been saying for decades, right? Across many communities here within Memphis, particularly within the city. So he's taken that term, right? And he's been able to add an additional culture around it where it's being promoted, right? And so I was in DC and I saw people with Maine T-shirts on, right? And I let Elliot know. So see, it's part of building the relationship. It's not just about the T-shirt or the hat or the coffee mug and things like that. It's about the relationship. So the relationship that you build with your customers, not just getting them to do one transaction and then go on. It's how do you build ongoing value with them, right? As you continue to progress through that relationship. So it's going to be interesting as social media, say 10 years from now, and who knows what social media is and how it's going to be integrated. You see these Google Home things and all that. I mean, eventually everything's just going to be, there's going to be no privacy and everybody's going to be listening to you and watching you at some point, but and tracking you. But it's interesting as we evolve, what is your business going to be 10 years from now, even on social media, right? What is it going to be? Are you going to have the same friends who get tired of seeing your same post over and over and over again, because you haven't really established a relationship with them, right? That you're providing an ongoing value and finding out specifically what their needs are, and being able to address that within the core model of your business. And so I encourage everybody. What up, Tam? Hey, good morning to you. Molly, Marlene, what's going on, girl? My boy Sam Upshaw, what's going on, man? Great content on last week as we talked about the fairgrounds. And if you want to join in on this discussion with me, again, comment hashtag I want to join, and you can join here. I'll invite you on if you want to join in on this topic to discuss it. You'll be split video screen with me, and you can join in. But it's critical if you're thinking about starting your business. As you're writing out your business plan, you don't have to have this long ass, 200-page, dissertation on your business plan. Your business plan has to be short and sweet. Who are you targeting? Why do they have this problem or whatever issue that you're bringing to the table? Why are they willing to do it with you and not anybody else? Right? And how are you going to continue to evolve as their needs evolve, their needs and desires evolve, their taste evolve, right? And when you can answer those questions, and then what is your goal? Are you an entrepreneur where you're starting this business and you're looking to scale it to a point where you're going to move on from it? That's an entrepreneur, right? And oftentimes we confuse, and I've told y'all, entrepreneurship and business, being a business owner. Those aren't always combined. Sometimes those could be mutually exclusive. But if you're an entrepreneur, typically by definition, you're starting a business and then you have some kind of exit clause so you can go start another business. If you're a business owner, you love that business model and process. You want to own it, and you generally are keeping it to see it through to some sort of legacy stage. Your end result then is you're dissolving the business either upon your death, or you're looking to have it transition again in the legacy phase to your heirs. That's typically what a business owner, they typically get the business and own it. You can own multiple businesses. Entrepreneurs do that too, but they're generally looking to, at some point exit the business either through a sale, dissolve it, whatever it is over some period of time, and then get into something else. Entrepreneurs take the risk to help solve problems, right? And build relationships. So relationship between your customer, your client, whatever, is critical. So even here on social media, as you're, gaining followers and people are liking your page and people are doing different things, make sure that you're following up, interacting with them. What do they like about it? People who will watch and listen to this show, I try to make sure that I reach out to them, whether it's by phone, whether we meet, whether it's inbox, whatever it is, and get their feedback. What would you like to see? What about the show did you like? What did you not like? So I can take all this feedback, again, thick skin. You take the feedback and then you make adjustments where it's needed. May not be adjustment, but then you may need to. But it's critical as the technology advances us to make things more convenient, cheaper, faster, all that kind of stuff, that you don't forget the essence of business, which is still the interaction with people. The last piece of what I want to talk about with today's subject, and again, you're listening to RGB on the I Really Mean It Show podcast. I'm also on Facebook Live here. The last piece is the relationship between you and your family, particularly as you're starting a business. This is something that, and I see this in banking a lot when I'm working with business owners. The relationship, I'll start with spouses. Okay, because I know that's the one folk love, and they really want to hear about that. Um, so the relationship spouse, it's very dynamic because everybody's different, right? Um, people have different tastes, they have different upbringing, different exposures, things like that. So if you're in a committed, marriage situation or scenario, and you're starting a business, maybe you're in business prior to meeting, and now you're going to come together, and now the wife's going to be, part of your situation, or your, whatever it is, the husband's going to be part of your situation, whatever your situation is that you set up. It is critical, and we often say that communication is the key, and that's a very generic, kind of mundane term, but it does have truth that you have to establish. I talked about basketball earlier, so those that again, you're going to get another dose of sports analogy. Part of a basketball game is at the very beginning of the game. You notice they have a jump ball, right? And you got guys high-fiving each other and dapping each other up, and they're stretching, they're doing different things because the games get ready to start. All right. And then you have the jump ball, and somebody gets possession of the ball, and they're on offense, right? Your mindset going into the game is you want to get off to a good start. You want to let the other team know that not today. I want to put my foot on your neck. I don't want to give you any hope that you got a chance to win this damn game, right? And that's typically what you want to do. You're testing out to see how the referees are going to call, what kind of fouls they're going to call, and all that. Are they going to call a tight game? Are they going to let you play and be a little loose? So you're testing all that out too. And so it's the same thing when you're looking to start your marriage, which is another business, by the way. So don't forget that. That's another business kind of agreement that you're getting into when you're getting into marriage. It ain't just about the wedding and putting on a dress and a tuxedo and taking a bunch of pictures and getting the congratulations and all that. It's not just about the glory, because then you got the marriage, right? So you got the wedding that goes by like that. I'm just telling y'all, that day goes by quick. All the time leading up to it, but that day is like that. Then you got the rest of life. So you want to get off to a good start. So you got to have your jump ball, so to speak. The basketball analogy is you got to have to set the right tone in that relationship. So for some people, you got husband and wives that end up in business themselves or together as a unit. You've got some that, maybe one spouse, the husband or wife, is not necessarily in the business. And so they may take more of a kind of a back seat to it because it's not really their interest or their upbringing or really some point their understanding. But the communication comes in that you got to have transparency into what the business is, what's the model, what's the time commitment, and how does that fit in you all's personal life. And you've got to be not so dogmatic with it as a business owner to try to dictate that because that's what you want to do, right? And in this individualistic kind of selfish society, we're very good at trying to be explicit and intentional about what our desires are as individuals, even though we're coming together as a collective in relationships. So make sure that you have the proper communication and proper tone. And if it doesn't fit, what it is that you want to do, you can't have it both ways. You got to either say, I'm going to conform and I'm going to be willing to adjust and pivot a little bit to make this work. Or if I'm going to be dogmatic, I need to be that. And then either the other person has to be willing to give, or you got to move on. But a lot of times we run into confusions because we're trying to play both. We want to be dogmatic on one side because it's the business, it's my idea, it's what I want to do, yada, yada, yada. But then on the flip side, we want to be somewhat accommodating and things like that in some instances, or we want to just say, nope, it's going to be my way. I'm going to start the business. We're going to struggle, and then we're going to get there and it's going to be my thing, right? And when the other person may not comply, we tend to have this argumentative, contentious kind of thing going on between the two people in the relationship. And this is expanding. This could be a marriage relationship. It could be just a significant other relationship. It could be between business partners, things like that, where you may have some areas where you agree and some areas where you may disagree in the approach. Oftentimes what you find is people want to get to the same place. I'll give you this analogy. It's if me and any one of y'all were in Bartlett, right, and we decided that we want to go downtown, all right, we're going to drive and I'm going to meet you downtown. Now, what's up, Daniel Watson? What's up, Barbara Glenn? Good morning to you. I'll take Daniel, for example. So Daniel, me and you, we go drive downtown from Bartlett, right, brother? You may take the streets to get there. So you may say, okay, I'm going to take 64 to Austin P, and then I'm going to go down to Austin P, turn to Jackson, whatever, and then I'm going to go down. I may decide I'm going to go down to Bartlett Boulevard, right, and let it turn to Sycamore View. I'm going to jump on the expressway, and I'm going to take the north or south loop. Either way, we're both looking to go downtown, right, D-Watt? But we take different paths to get there, right? Because Daniel may say, hell, I don't mess with the expressway. If it gets backed up, whatever, I can't get off, I get stuck, it's going to slow me down, right? And I may say, damn, the streets with all them traffic lights and everything, it's going to take me forever to get from Bartlett to downtown, hitting every single little light along the way, right? That's just differences of ideology and opinion. Again, we're both going downtown, right? We're both going downtown. And we may get there at the same time, right? But we got different philosophies on how to get there. That's what happens sometimes in relationships, whether it's married, whatever it is you got two people who've got two different philosophies on how to get somewhere. They're both going to the same place. D. Watt said, yeah, Sam Cooper. Yeah, matter of fact, that's kind of my way, man. I look for the quickest way to get down there, brother. So, yeah, he's exactly right. Tony Falasca, what's going on, brother? Good morning to you, man. Thanks for joining on the I Really Mean It Show podcast. Again, y'all can jump in on the show with me if you want to join. Just comment with the hashtag I want to join, and you could do that. And certainly for those that are on the recording for the podcast that aren't on Facebook Live. But so that's the deal. When you talk about relationships and whether it's your marriage or whatever, don't get so, bogged down in the how you get there, right? So as Daniel and I using that as an example, as business partners, we both want to get downtown. I'm going to meet you there within 45 minutes. We're going to be downtown. All right. So we may decide that, hey, he goes his way, I go my way, right? Now we both get there, but we took different paths to get there. And so let's just say now we go ride in the car together and go downtown, right? So now we're both in the same car. Daniel may say, man, let's go down here. Let's hit Sam Cooper. Let's get downtown. I say, nah, man, I'm going to ride down here to Watson. I want to stop by the Checkers and grab us a burger, and then we go get down there. All right. So we may go back and forth on maybe arguing and trying to get each other to see our way of that ideology or that philosophy. Man, it's better to go this way. No, it's better to go that way. All right. See, at some point, then either you got to say, F that, I'm behind the wheel. Your ass is sitting in the back or in the passenger seat. We're going wherever I say we're going. Right. And that's how a lot of us are. I got the steering wheel. My foot's on the gas. You can either ride with me the way I'm going to go, or you can get your ass out. You know what I mean? So that's one way to put it. The other way to put it is to listen to each other's focuses, right? And the breakdown as to why a person feels that way. So that's when it's successful, that tends to be what happens. Is it's a little bit of not so much give and take, and it's not about keeping the score on the scoreboard, but it's looking at. Then you may say, okay, man, I looked on Google. There's an accident on Watson. If I go 64 down all the way down to Watson, it's an accident right there. That's going. We'll have to wait there probably about an hour, right? And we're not going to get downtown in 45 minutes. All right. So now he's providing fact and data for me to consider. He's probably right, even though that's the way I may want to go. Y'all hear me on this? That's the way I want to go. But now he's provided some information that suggests that going that way is going to delay us if our goal is to get downtown in 45 minutes, right? So now I say, okay, let's go that way. right? Now, I may want to go a little bit down a little further to catch something else. He may say, okay, well, let's go down here. We'll grab us a burger from wherever, and then we're going to hop on. We're going to avoid Watson, and we're going to jump on Sam Cooper, right? So now what have we done? We've been able to kind of bargain back and forth, and we've worked across the aisle, so to speak. Mickey Renee, what's up, girl? Good morning to you. Sister-in-law right there, family. How you doing? Thank you for joining and watching. So, that's the issue. So, when you're in this, the committed relationship piece, marriage, whatever it is, that's what you have to be able to do. You have to be able to listen, and hopefully the other person or you are able to then provide that without getting upset. So you notice that in that scenario where I was talking about with Daniel, it ain't about getting hot at him or he getting hot at me and, F you and F you and, I'm getting out of the car, I'm going to ride myself and I'm going to do, that's how people with that contentious spirit tend to have. And they're the ones that are, they tend to be the ones that are perpetually single too, right? Because they haven't learned how to have that kind of dialogue without it being all about them. They haven't learned how to make it all about them without being all about them. Now, I'm going to hit y'all with that topic later on, so don't worry me about that right now. But they haven't learned how to make it about them without making it about them, right? You notice in that scenario, what did I say? I said, I'm still going to go down here to get our burger now. All right, Daniel? You know what I mean, D-Watt? We're going to get our burgers now because we want to eat before we get downtown. But instead of going all the way to Watson, where Daniel said, hey, man, I've pulled up the data. A truck done turned over there. Them folks sitting there in one lane and it ain't moving. So it's going to take us an hour to get through there, which is inefficient. We need to be down there in 45 minutes, not an hour and 45 minutes, right? So what did I do? I'm still going, to get our burger. So that's still part of my plan, right? But now we've got part of D. Watt's plan, which is to avoid the BS with the accident and still get downtown within 45 minutes. So we're achieving our objective. Okay. Without all the fanfare, without all the cussing and the back and forth and the grudge holding, sitting on the side like some of y'all do and, turn your body where you don't want to look at it, without all the pettiness, right? Because again, our goal is to get down there in 45 minutes. Our goal is not to be petty. Our goal is not to get our way. Our goal is to get down there in 45 minutes. We got a clear focus because it's efficiency. We don't have time for the BS. All right. So it's the same thing. And if you've got your committed relationship with someone who doesn't think that way and they value contentiousness and they value petty, and some people just grew up that way. That's how they got their way. I'm a believer that adults tend to go with the way, however they got their way as a child is the way that they tend to try as an adult. If they got their way as a child by being manipulative and painting themselves as the victim and being contentious and trying to have an ego bravado against it, and they were allowed to do that when they grow up, right? That's the way they do it. If they had more of a diplomatic way of doing it, or maybe a softer approach of doing it when they were young, and that was successful for them, when they become adults, they're going to go that same way. And that's how you see people, they have their natural personality, and then they got their way on how they get things done. Some people lay out the honey. They don't use vinegar. Some folk pour vinegar on everything, right? Apple cider, white vinegar, red wine vinegar, whatever the hell it is. Yep. Teamwork does make the dream work, brother. D. Watt, I appreciate you. Let me use you as an example there, brother. Y'all make sure y'all connect with Daniel Watson as well. In his business, he's on my Facebook. Make sure that you look at ways to connect with him, professionally and do business. Rochelle Butler, good morning to you, lady. How you doing? So again, as we kind of wrap this up, the relationship between yourself and then like a spouse or significant other is critical. You need the support, right? And the way that you get the support is they have to have the right mindset. You have to provide the right communication and commitment and transparency so that you can work together as a unit to balance what you've got. Then if you got children and things like that, they have their needs, right? So there's got to be an understanding on both sides on how that's going to get taken care of, right? And you got to have that on the front end. That's not something you can, you can't change the offense with 10 seconds on the shot clock, right? And that's what a lot of people try to do. That's where they get frustrated, is they give the other spouse the ball with 2 seconds on the shot clock to get a shot. And if you run your offense like that all the time, y'all gonna have some contentious existence. Y'all watch these basketball games. Yeah, they want to throw Kobe Bryant the ball with 2 seconds on the shot clock after they've been dribbling around and changing what they're supposed to do. He gonna get pissed off. Russell Westbrook, you will hear from him. Paul George, any of these cats, James Harden, right? You run the offense, you got a 24-second clock, right? Yeah, what up, frat Ron Lewis? What's going on, brother? Shout out to Ronnie B, his son, brand new, Phi Beta Sigma. Yeah, definitely, brother. But that relationship, has to be something that you cultivate with good communication and the proper expectation. And again, these are things you do early on. You can't wait till y'all 5 years into the marriage and all this kind of stuff, and then here you show up with this stuff. Because again, you're going to evolve even through the marriage. Because keep in mind, I equate dating and marriage to it's a lot of people. Again, a sports analogy. When you're always trying out for the team, you give your best foot, right? Because you're trying to make the team. Huh? Now I'm gonna get y'all with that subject later on too. And y'all don't let y'all pastor preach this tomorrow. Y'all make sure that he sends a percentage of them tithes and offerings over here to the I Really Mean It Show podcast. But the connectivity with yourself and then your spouse, you've got to make sure that you've got this communication based platform already set. And as I was getting into it, the analogy is when you're trying out for the team, you're always you're putting your best foot forward. For those of y'all that play basketball, you can think about the first time you tried out for a team, and let's just say you made the team, right? In tryouts, you wanted to make sure you had the fundamentals right? You didn't want to be down there missing layups. You didn't want to be down there dribbling the ball off your foot. You didn't want to be letting other guys drive by you and score, right? You put your best foot forward. Well, what happens is, as human beings, we tend to get a little lax once we done made the team. So, I can remember you kind of make the team, and now you get into, D. Watt remembers this at White Station. You're on the team. You don't even have to show up to tryouts no more. Nothing like that, because you already on the team, right? You got these other cats trying to make the team, so they do all that. But you're already on the team, so you kind of the big shit, right? You kind of walk around and you got your chest stuck out, and you looking forward to the season. Now, what if that coach comes in and says everybody's got to try out? I don't care what you did last year. I don't care what your stats were, how much you played, didn't play. I'm rolling the ball out, and everybody's got to try out, right? And if I got to make a change, I'll make a change. Now your mindset's different, right? Because now you've got to put your best foot forward out again. The people that can keep that kind of mentality, even when they're already on the team, that's where you see folk married 30, 40, 50, 60 years. Aside from these, baby boomer folk who just like to stay married because they worried about what deacon so-and-so gonna say or mother such and such on the first row at the church. And they don't really have no marriage. They just exist to take advantage of each other's conveniences, right? I don't want to go out and cut the grass, so I got my husband to go do that. And then when I go out in the streets, I can say I've been married 30 years. But it ain't shit, really. All right? So a lot of folks had that kind of situation and setup. And it's mostly that baby boomer generation, that flogging generation that started with the whole, let's go to church, let's have the facade, right? Now, I don't give a damn about them. Now, I don't want none of these, I don't want nobody else looking at them now because that's my kind of my bread and butter. So I ain't stupid, right? But I ain't going to really treat them and be too loving with them because, I don't want to do that. I'm holding on to my grudge from 19 whatever, right? And so a lot of people have that kind of relationship. So then that kind of contentious, manipulative relationship is difficult to have when you're building a business. So watch out for that, and watch out for folk who grew up in that kind of environment because they even may despise it in someone else, but then be careful because they can pick up that same mentality. So you may have to watch for that and be prepared on how you're going to address that. And there's ways to overcome that. But, in the beginning, when you have your communication, you've got to be able to set a firm foundation, and you've got to be able to communicate, and you've got to be able to work together to help build a business. And, a spouse or a significant other, whoever, should be supportive of you, and then you should be supportive of them, right? It's not a one-way street, right? It's not about you dictating. It's the partnership, right? It's no different than when you've got great partnerships, whether it's, if you look on the court, as contentious as Kobe Bryant and Shaq were, they won championships. Why? Because they had the killer mentality to go out there and perform, right? And they both knew that the other provided something that they don't. Shaq don't win without Kobe, right? Because, Kobe's, taking care of the perimeter. He's defending, and he's able to score. He's able to open up the paint by hitting jump shots, right? And going one-on-one with his man. Kobe don't win without Shaq because you need, at that time, the way the game was played, you need the horse in the paint. Shaq's the best in the business, right? And he draws a lot of attention away from other players, right? Because you got to guard him, right? Guy 7'1", 370 pounds. He's a gorilla down there. He's a beast. You got to guard him. So it works well, right? So you got to have that same kind of mentality. And if you're going to be selfish about it, if you're going to be petty about it, if you're going to be worried about side chicks and side dudes and all this other stuff that's highly sensationalized, and you're going to be fearful, that fearfulness is going to bring on jealousy, right? And it's going to bring on this mindset of ownership, like you own somebody else. And listen, I said this in a post yesterday. I'm going to tell y'all this right now. Ain't nothing you go do that's going to stop nobody from going out and doing anything with a grown man or a grown woman. And I'll say that again for the folk on the recording. There's nothing you're going to do. I don't care how good you are, in bed with your relationship with people. It don't matter how smart you are. It don't matter how much you put in that bank account. It don't matter how good of a parent you are. That individual has to make that personal decision. So I see this a lot on Facebook because a lot of y'all have this hyper fearful sensitivity of infidelity. I'm not saying being stupid. I'm not saying being dumb, right? You be the very best that you can be, right? And you have that documented. If you're the very best to a person and that's not enough in their mind, then it's not enough. I'm not saying it don't hurt. I'm not saying this is easy to deal with. I'm not saying because matters of the heart are tough. Right? Some of y'all will start a business and y'all will put y'all whole economic future in jeopardy for a business. And then with your heart, you want to build a fence, your fort around the heart. It's the same thing. The same risk you take in the business, the same risk you take investing in someone else in a marriage situation. Right? But the moment you start getting so fearful and worried about, what someone's going to do, some of y'all get more worried. It's funny. I'll see people. They're more worried about what their husband or wife is doing when they get married than they were when they were dating them and they weren't together at all every day. Ain't that funny? Y'all, when y'all dating and y'all don't live in the same house, she lives here, you live there, whatever, and it's good. Y'all don't even see each other every day. Then you start seeing each other every day when y'all living together, and now, it becomes a problem and it's this and that. And there's other factors that go into it, but make sure with that you keep that tight. Hey, Miss Windows, what's going on? Mario, what's going on, brother? Sam, I appreciate it, man. I thank you so much. D Watt, yeah, man. I remember you doing that thing, boy, at White Station. No doubt about it. Y'all had some mean teams, and you don't be modest, brother. You did get in and put some work in. Don't act like I don't remember. Philip Brooks, what's going on, man? My younger brother. Good morning to you, man. If y'all want to join in, again, hashtag I want to join. Comment it right here, and you could join in. I'll invite you to come on the Facebook Live, and it'll be the screen. Your folk will be able to see you now. So make sure your environment is such that you want to be on live. But anyway, take this back. That your relationship, for those that maybe looking to get engaged. Maybe you just got married. Maybe you're in a committed relationship, whether it's monogamous, whether it's not. Whatever it is that you've decided, this is not to try to put into a box or limit anything, right? That's not my role. That's not what I'm trying to do. I'm not judging anybody's relationship or how they set it up. That's between y'all. That's your agreement. What I am saying is, however that's set up, the key basis is you got to make sure that your communication is tight, that your expectations are tight, and you can't live in this perpetual mode of fear when it comes to that. Listen, again, like I told you, ain't nothing you're gonna be able to do to stop no grown man or grown woman from doing anything with anybody. It ain't gonna matter. No, you could be terrible, you could be really good. The best thing you can do is, because someone say, "Oh, hey, well, hell, what am I going to do?" Don't be discouraged and all that. It's the risk that you take. Any business relationship, it has an inherent risk. There's no guarantee. There's no guarantees in this thing. You go pay some form of tax, right? And you're going to die. You're going to transition this life to another life. Everything else is a variable. It's a variable, right? And you've got to have, the right people in the right places on your team. And you've got to, be prepared. Don't be dumb or naive, but don't be so fearful that it causes you to have this aura, because that does drive people away. When you try to hold on to people and, make them like they're yours, and you try to dictate things to try to avoid. Some of y'all don't let your spouse have no Facebook. Y'all lie and say, that, oh, they don't like Facebook or whatever. That's BS. Some of y'all put out ultimatums on folks. Listen, ain't got time for all that, right? People either want to be on your team or they don't. Okay. And if they don't, listen, you've got to be prepared. Prepare yourself, and then you got to be able to move on. But here's the psychology about it. The less you worry about this other stuff, the better that it is. Okay? The less you worry about some of this other stuff. Be the best you that you can. Stop worrying about the side chick, side dude, the side whatever. Stop worrying about I got to watch everywhere they go and stick apps on dude's phone and all that kind of stuff. You're not even spending time worrying about your business. You worry about all this other side petty stuff because of your own insecurities, right? You got to be able to conquer that. Is it easy? Hell no, it ain't easy. I never said it was. But you've got to be able to do it, okay? Lastly, as part of the whole thing with the relationships and your business is with your family. And my guy Dominic Lawson with the Startup Life podcast, which I encourage you to listen. That's one that's in heavy rotation with me, and shout out to Dominic Lawson. He had a show one time kind of talking about that. And your family, at times, kind of like your spouse, can be supportive and they cannot be. Naturally, a lot of people are more ingrained with an understanding of you having a job versus you owning your business, right? And there's a number of reasons for that. There's been all the studies and statistics that people quote and misquote often about the success rate of a business and things like that. The same way they do it with marriage. The first thing folk throw out, they get fearful of it because, 50% of them end in divorce. What 50%? Among who? They don't dig into, who they studied with that. They might have only studied 21-year-olds in Nevada, for example. They didn't even study everybody to even know, right? So, and then, you can always spin it. If 50% don't work, that means 50% do. When you go to Vegas with 50% odds, I sure as hell would. If you pull that slot machine, you had 50% chance of winning, you gonna be playing the damn slot machine if money's something that you want or a place in high regard. So anyway, your family, they could be a hindrance as well because they may not understand. And it's not that they don't look out for your best interest, because here's what happens a lot of times with kind of young and startup entrepreneurs that family members do know. They know that when it don't work, you're not going to go borrow money from another struggling entrepreneur. You go come to me, the family member that's working a job that getting paid every other week, right? And with that consistent salary. That's who they know you go come to. So what they're worried about is when it don't work, now you go come to me in a desperate situation at the last minute, talking about the business didn't work, RGB, and now I got to feed the baby, and mama's on my back, and the rent man, gave me, ultimately I got to be out tomorrow. And you notice those folks, they don't come to you early on. They come to you Thursday afternoon after the man said you got to pay by Friday or you're going to be out. Don't y'all notice that? Folks don't come to you when it first happened 2 weeks earlier where you could have helped them. They come to you at the last 11th hour after they've tried what they think to be everything else, or the things that they really don't want to try that you recommend for them. And so that's what family members oftentimes get concerned about, in playing the advocate for them. The other side is they don't understand business. They don't understand ownership, and they're often fearful of, their own ownership at some point in life. Their mentality is more the safe. Let me play it. Let me be a cog within the automated process or within the assembly line. I don't want to be the owner of the means of production. And so don't get upset with those folks because they don't. If it's not their mindset and they don't understand it, they're just not. They're not going to understand it. Okay, they're not going to understand it. So, and you're not going to force them to. Right? The only way they're going to understand is they got to see it. And they're going to see it with how you go and operate. All right. So you explain the business model. You'd love to have their support. And listen, they may not support you on the very front end because they know too much about you. There's kind of a natural human tendency that with the people that you're most closest to, right, you're not as quick to support them as you are with outsiders who you don't know, who you haven't had an interaction with, because what you're focusing on with an outsider is just solely what they're saying and the value. You're not clouded by the past, right? Your past interactions, they saw you grow up, or they've seen you do this or see you do that, or they have intricate knowledge into how you do business anyway, So with your family, what you've got to be able to do, again, you got to set the proper expectations. You got to have the proper communication, but don't get sidetracked when they're not the most supportive in terms of jumping out behind your product or your service or liking your page and doing all that stuff right out the gate. Don't worry about that. Continue to cultivate, continue to, again, build the relationships like we talked at the beginning of the show, direct, right? And what tends to happen with family is they tend to jump on board once they see a movie. Like a lot of people, they jump on, they like success, right? Y'all wasn't Golden State Warrior fans 5, 6, 7 years ago. Y'all barely knew what state Golden State was in. y'all didn't even know Golden State played in San Francisco 10 years ago, right? Now you got folk that are Golden State Warrior fans. They show up with Steph Curry shirts on, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, Kevin Durant, all this kind of stuff. But you remember in the 90s, folks were Bulls fans. Early 2000s, they become Lakers fans. LeBron comes on the scene. Some folks are fans of whatever team LeBron's on. Some people are fans just of LeBron in and himself. It don't matter who he play for. If LeBron go play for the Knicks, they got Knicks stuff on. LeBron leave and go play for the Spurs, they got Spurs gear on. You know what I mean? And so, people like success stories, right? They like in this country, they like redemption, right? And they like success stories, right? People love that. They like the drama of redemption. They like to hear how somebody fell and how they got back up, or if they didn't get back up, why. That's what makes these things like documentaries and ESPN 30 for 30 and all that attractive to people, because people love the story. They love the details of the story, and they love to see the humanity of a person, of how their lifestyle or mistakes or decisions caused them to fall, and whatever intervention that took place to help them either rise up or remain fallen. People love that. And so it's natural in your business that your family will come around when they see the success. And then you've got another set of concerns that come with that. So again, today, what we talked about here on the I Really Mean It Show podcast with RGB, relationships and business. And make sure as you're rounding out 2017, you're getting through this holiday period, the sensationalized stuff with the holidays. And now pretty soon it's going to be January 1st and all that's going to be done. And what are you going to do different in 2018 from 2017, from 2016? It's not just about posting about it. It's not just about posting, for 5 years I've been looking to move away from Memphis and, I hadn't done it yet. Even though I got nothing tying me down here, so some of y'all are like that. Some of y'all, looking to start your business, you're looking to expand. You've got to do it, but you got to have the strategic plan, and you got to do something different. You're trying to build relationships with the right kind of people. You got to do something different. Yeah, I hear people like this all the time. They're frustrated with their circle, but you got to be able to move on. If you're evolving, you've got to be able to move on. You can't keep the same thing going. Some of y'all try to hold on to the same folks, and then you want to go this way. You're not going to run going forward looking backwards. You can't run like that. You know what I mean? Because what happens when you run and you're doing this? Boom, you run into something, or you run up off of something, right? So you got to move forward. And you move forward, you build the relationships, right? Cultivate. Everyone's not going to be perfect. Everyone's not going to be long lasting. Some relationships are designed for a finite period of time to help you get to the next level or help them get to the next level. Some relationships are perpetual and long going, right? So it just all depends. But I'm RGB. This is the I Really Mean It Show podcast. I hope that y'all enjoyed and found value in today's dialogue. Make sure y'all go out, YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes, iHeartRadio. I think we're still out there. Google Play Music. Subscribe to the podcast. Listen to it. Share it. If you want to be a guest, make sure you hit the I Really Mean It podcast Facebook page. You can inbox. If you have topic, ideas or things like that, make sure that you share those with me as well. On the next upcoming show, we're going to have Paul Young. We were going to have him this week, but we ran into scheduling things. I had scheduled issues yesterday, and then Paul was on vacation. But we're going to have Paul Young, who's the director of housing and community development with the city of Memphis. He's going to join me. He's going to be actually live here with me on the Facebook Live, and we'll record the podcast. We're going to talk about city projects and how they relate to various communities. And we're going to have a good critical thinking conversation as to how many of you and myself can be involved in these, get awareness of it and be involved in some of these projects, no matter where your business is and things like that. So be ready here coming up on next Friday. We're going to be ready for that. Listen, I'm signing off, y'all. I'm getting ready to go check out this Justice League movie. I don't know if y'all have had a chance to go see that, but I'm going to go check that out with a group of some young boys from about the city, taking them to check that out. So thank y'all so much. I really appreciate you tuning in, and we're just going to keep this thing going. You know what I mean? That's all it's about. We're just going to keep this thing moving. I thank y'all for listening to the podcast. I thank you for sharing it. Man, what up, D-Watt? Vicky Renee, I appreciate all of y'all. Love y'all, man.
You're experiencing
the rest of your Saturday.
I Really Mean It Show podcast with your host,
Philip, man. What's up, man? Thank you for the show. Everything, man. Y'all doing y'all thing over at Love. Let's just support the business. Everything may not be explicit support, but just know I have my eye on all y'all, man. Any way that I can help and be a resource is what I look to do. I'm a platform builder, so I love to be able to be a resource for you. So until then, man, RGB, I'm out. Y'all have a great Saturday.